Right, something different in this video. I've got a sheet of questions. I've got 11 questions. I don't want 10, but we'll do for 11. And I'm going to try and take this in one take, so it's as close as you're going to get to me doing the live stream. My internet is terrible, by the way, so I can't do a live stream. It's terrible. Right, so I've got 11 questions. I'm going to start from the top, and the first question we have is from Realreaper. It kind of like gets a few extra ones in here, but it goes from: what was your OS journey? What was the first OS you ever used, and how did you eventually reach the BSDs? I've done a video on this. I'll leave a link to the video in the description box down below. But basically, I mean, I started out at 8 bits, went from Dragon 32, which is like a Coco 2 clone. I went then to a ZX Spectrum, then I went to an Amiga 600, then an Amiga 1200, then I had a PC running Windows 3.11, and then I think Windows 95, then Windows 98, of course, and upwards. And I think I went to Windows 2000, which was for Windows is a really good operating system. And then, for whatever reason, Should we just shut off then? The computer just turned off. Then I went to OS2, because OS2, at that time I was doing a college course and I needed to save files in longer than the 8.3 characters or something that's allowed. I don't know. Then I went on to Linux. I might have gone back to Windows for a bit, and then I went on to Linux. Did the usual distro hopping that people do. Settled on, I think it was like Mandrake. Then FreeBSD. And I haven't been off it since, really. That's why I use it exclusively as my OS of choice. Oh, by the way, sorry for the room. It's I'm relegated to the storeroom, and eventually I'm gonna see if I can get a studio up and going, and if the luxury of getting repainted. So that's how I got to FreeBSD. I think, like I say, I'll put that in the video description down below to the video that I made about 3 years ago, detailing that. And I think that answers that. On the final little bit he asks is, oh, and what are your thoughts on lesser OSs like 9 front and Haiku? Lesser known OSs. I mean, I absolutely I adore more niche OSs. Amiga OS is still going, so Amiga OS next generation, like 4.1, 4.2, if there is a 4.2 out. If not, there should be. I love those. Other ones like Haiku, I never really used Haiku, and I've never really used any of the others. But I do use when the mood takes me, RISC OS, which is like the native Acorn OS for the ARM system, was originally back in the 80s, and running it on the Raspberry Pi 400. It's as close as you're going to get to its native OS, and it runs really well on the Raspberry Pi. But what do I think of them? I think they're fantastic. I think there is definitely a need for alternative OSs. I'm under no assumption that they're ever going to be mainstream. Although you never know, if someone comes in with funding and then ramps up the driver support and stuff like that. Who knows? Who knows in this weird and wacky world we live in? But yeah, I love alternative OSs, and for me, FreeBSD is it's really difficult. It is, you could see it as an alternative OS, but it's kind of mainstream. It's got all the support you need, but it's alternative at the same time. And for me, it's just got that nice mix of edginess, rebellion. Everybody's still like, you go for the Windows. No, I want to go for Linux. And it's like, nope, we'll go for FreeBSD. But also, it's got its independence, so it He's got his freedom to choose whatever path he wants to go down. So to me, it's a perfect blend. But yeah, I love alternative OSes. Thank you very much, Realreaper. Second question. And we have one from Seth. It says, answer the question. It's very authoritative there. It says, what OS comes next? Something that includes a real useful AI, not this garbage they're trying to fob off on us. That's a really good point. I mean, Microsoft, as much as many of their practices are perhaps not the nicest in business sense, they kind of like know where the trend is going, so they're going to introduce keyboards with an AI button on it, which I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing. But I think an OS, what come next, is one that, you know, like you can get many subscription services which they kind of like the algorithm in the thing knows which program you might want to watch next, or which music you might want to hear next. That kind of like thing, but in an OS where, say for instance, you know, I don't know, you know, you sit down at your workstation, your desk at 9 o'clock in the morning, the first thing you do is open your emails, and then you do a little bit of you should do your work, but you do a little bit of browsing, then you get on with a little bit of work and so whatever it is, what your daily routine is. Maybe imagine if an OS could control the hardware to a certain extent, and then know what you would do. So, for instance, you would sit down, it would switch on. You don't even have to turn it on because it either using the webcam or something like that, it would detect movement or detect you sat in front of the computer, and then it would switch on, and then it would, first thing it would do, you could have a voice maybe. It would say, do you want to check your emails? And it bring up the email things, and then it would automatically run in the background things to preemptively start so everything's quicker. Maybe it might be voice activated. It might even say, you know, whatever your name, just say, I would like to check my emails, please, or browser, please, or something that kind of like, people like to cut time out of their daily routines, but maybe something which would speed things up. It preemptively load in the background the things that it thinks that you want to do, and then perhaps voice activate, so you don't select it on the mouse or click it, something along them lines. I think that will be more or less built into OSs. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. I can see many applications where it would be a good thing. If you've got disabilities, eyesight's not as good, or perhaps your dexterity is not as good as it was. I'm getting there myself. It would help, and so I mean, even sort of like that kind of like automation. If you're, I don't know, if you say like, you know, you want to do a bit of work on, you can't really find the time. I don't know. It could be something along them lines. I think something like automation within OS built in to make things quicker. Where will it go eventually? I don't know. Maybe like science fiction, you know, like Star Trek. You just ask your computer to do something, and maybe it'll do it. Who knows? Whether it's a good or bad thing, it depends. These things always sometimes get abused. It's human nature, I'm afraid. You know, you can get a stick to fish with it and hunt with it, but you can also get a stick to bash someone else with it. So human nature will always find a nefarious thing to do with these things. So who knows? Right, the next question is, if I can see it, and this, do you know my eyesight? I need some more glasses. Is Sơn Phan? I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. It says, what's the best way to respond to X, for example, ZFS? Already exists in Windows and Linux, so I don't see the reason to use FreeBSD. That's a good question. I get that all the time. And I know many of these OSs, you use them if it works for you. I mean, if you use Windows and you can bang out code, or you can bang out God knows, excuse me, you can bang out, I'll edit that bit out, you can produce so many documents in an hour, then Windows is best for you. If, on the other hand, Linux is more your thing, it gives you more freedom, you can delve into it, you can learn from it, then use Linux. If, on the other hand, you want something which is perhaps more cohesive, is technically as good as, if not better than, the other OSs, and ZFS is more integrated tightly into the kernel. Through licensing, I think I understand it. Linux has problems with ZFS. You can use ZFS on Linux, and I'm not quite sure. I've not used it on Linux. I've not used Linux. There are performance issues. I'm sure I might be talking that back in my neck with that, or perhaps some distributions don't like to include it through licensing, or whatever it is. I mean, with FreeBSD, you don't get any of them problems. It's integrated tightly, and there's no problem in using it. And FreeBSD has been using it for such a long time. There's a lot more documentation and fixes for issues, and even tips. As far as the other reason why you want to use FreeBSD, because it's cool. No, it's a matter of choice and taste. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to jump from Windows straight into FreeBSD. I thought, you never know, perhaps somebody might. I think what it is going to be someone's going to make a evolutionary jump. Excuse me. Someone's going to make a jump. Oh, my voice has gone funny. Someone's going to make a jump from Linux to FreeBSD. Maybe because for political reasons. I mean, there's a lot of licensing issues. Maybe someone doesn't agree with that, or maybe I don't know. It's difficult. If you're happy with FreeBSD, I would say if you're happy with Windows, you've got no reason to jump to Linux. If you're happy with Linux, you've got no reason to jump to Windows and FreeBSD. If you're happy with FreeBSD, then you've got there for your own volition, for whatever reason you've looked. I'm babbling on at the moment. It's documentation, community support, the user base, the way that the FreeBSD is upgraded. You upgrade the core and then you upgrade the user land. They're kept apart separately. So, I mean, there's many instances, say for instance in Linux, where you upgrade something. You upgrade Inkscape, and it FreeBSDs the system for whatever reason, because I don't know, it's taken out a driver or a library which something else, and it all falls to bits. With FreeBSD, you might get. I mean, I've never really encountered anything, but say for instance, you're not gonna install or uninstall Inkscape, and then the system itself won't start up. It doesn't work that way. So whichever the problem is, you better fix it. So it's just little things like that. And there's a lot of similarity between the OSes, especially Linux and FreeBSD. It comes down to licensing, documentation, technology, community, I suppose, really. I suppose that's it. I can't. It's early in the morning. I can't really. I can't think straight. Right. So what next? We've got one by Wally, and it says, "I want to know how to do NIC bridging in FreeBSD. I'm still a novice, but enjoy learning, slowly moving from Ubuntu server to FreeBSD." NIC bridging. Well, I don't think I've ever covered that. I think I'll leave it up to more qualified other people to do that. But you never know. I might do a video on that. I'll come back to that. That is something which perhaps I should look into. Although, really, we'll see. We'll see. So, Wally, I don't know yet. Next, Jorge. I am so sorry if I mispronounced the names. I'm British after all. We're not very good at pronouncing non-British names. So, in a world where more and more perfectly working computers are made obsolete by the growing demands of the Windows operating system, do you think FreeBSD, or even other BSDs, can have a role in extending the life, I keep banging that microphone, extending the life of these older computers, which is good for the economy of the users and for the ecosystem? Yes, I do think that they can. I think it's an excellent. I mean, with FreeBSD in particular, I can't speak for Linux because many times Linux is the graphics system is integrated. Therefore, you get a desktop. But except for maybe Debian might be good. Well, FreeBSD for older computers, yes, excellent. I think that you were. Oh, so I can't stop behind him. I do this, you know, if anyone ever makes videos, it could be me, but it's weird that it sets me yawning when I put. I'm not tired. Once I start talking, I start yawning. So yes, I think BSDs can. I think FreeBSD. I think OpenBSD, although I don't really use that, and NetBSD, because they're lightweight to start with. You know, you build a system up to tailor to yourself. So whereas a lot of like Windows or Linux, they dump everything there, whether you want it or not. Only one or two may ask you whether you want a server version or desktop. The vast majority just put everything there, and then you've got to take out or perhaps just put up with everything they give you. With FreeBSD, NetBSD, and OpenBSD, they give you the bare bones. They give you they're enough to start up the computer. They give you things for the essential tools, but then you add to it and then configure exactly how you want. So for an older system, not so much 32-bit because a lot of the support's getting deprecated, which is a shame. But say if you've got an older 64-bit with only 2 gigabytes of RAM or less, maybe, I think FreeBSD could work well. You're not going to get miracle. You're not going to run the latest desktop on it, you know, fire up KDE or anything like that. But if you're running a server on it, I think it's more than capable. It's like the Raspberry Pi. I've got quite a few running over there, and I've got more than a couple. Well, about 3 maybe. That's running FreeBSD, doing certain tasks. So I've even got one which is like a mini NAS, serving another computer in another room running GhostBSD. Its task is just to serve that one. It's difficult. It's to do with the kids' college where they wanted somewhere. No one else had access to it, so just on that computer to that NAS. But it's running FreeBSD. Does it perfectly. It's a Raspberry Pi 3 running on 1 gigabyte of RAM, so you don't need massively powerful systems. And I think that's one of the one of the beauties of FreeBSD. Just close that down. Got distracted in that. Yeah. So it's it will be interesting if I did a live stream. I will completely mess it up. Is that all better? Yeah, okay. So we're cooking now. So yeah, older systems, FreeBSD would be fine. In fact, highly recommended. And yes, you are right about reusing older computers. I mean, there's a thing now where I think Windows 11 requires certain computers of a certain age that doesn't have a thing in the CPU. I'm not quite sure what it is. Otherwise, you can't install it. Which probably means the market is going to be well supplied with second-hand corporate machines that is more than capable of running FreeBSD or even Linux. Going for second-hand, cheap. It's good for me. I can't remember last time when I bought a new computer. I think the last time I had a newish computer was when I built one 9 years ago. It was a water-cooled one. I had a slight self-contained reservoir. But the vast majority of computers I buy, HP Z600, HP Z400, obviously second-hand because I can't afford them new. But no. So for me, it's a good thing. And yes, FreeBSD would be perfect for that. You know, I don't half waffle. You should. Maybe it's a good job I don't do a live stream. So next we've got Lukasz. When will you show the FreeBSD installation with hyprland? I don't even know what hyprland is. Oh, it's a Wayland thing, isn't it? I don't know. I'll have to look into it. I don't even know if it's available for FreeBSD. So we have a quick look. Hyprland. Start the monitor up again. Well, I mean, let's have a look. So, hyprland, he says. It's amazing, isn't it? So you'll have to excuse me. Like I said, this is about as close as you're going to get for me to do a live stream. even in advance notice of doing this recording, I am completely prepared. So let's have a look. I'm going to go to FreeBSD ports, search, port hyper. There's no E in it, is there? Land. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, there is. Okay. It says dynamic tiling Wayland compositor that doesn't sacrifice its locks. All right. I don't know. I don't know. I'll look into it. I'll have to set up a test machine and then install it on it. So that's the only thing I can say is watch this space. I will have a look. We'll see how it works. Do you know, my hair? It's amazing, isn't it? You know when you think you got your hair right and it's time for a haircut. Right. Okay. So that's. Thank you, Lukasz. Thank you. That's a very good question. Another one by Big Pete. Big Pete. What can be done to enhance portability and backups of configs across BSD desktops? Do you backup rc.confs? I do indeed. Storage, snapshots, and a home partition isolated from. Well, what I do, and everyone's different, of course. You know, I run ZFS, but I don't use. Well, no, I do use snapshots. I use boot environment snapshots. So before any major upgrade, I'll do a snapshot of the boot environment. And what that basically does, it takes your system, makes a copy of it, or snapshot of it, before any major changes. So if you introduce a major change, and then you reboot or whatever, and it doesn't work, which on one or two occasions have, mainly my fault when I've not typed something out properly in the config file, you can go back. You can just write the boot menu, you can just roll back to a previous work. So brilliant, it saved my bacon several times. So I would advocate using that. What I do to back up my config files is you can either do it remotely, which might not be a bad idea, say for instance Google Drive or GitHub, etc. Or you can, as I do, I have a NAS going. It's a true NAS core. I've got that running with, so it's available for NFS, and I mount them to a drive. I mount them to a desktop as remote drive so I can access them. I've got 3 of them so far. It's like double drives each because it's ZFS. It makes backups, and then I'll save on there my configs, anything important. Simply I'll save it on there, but I also save it to a USB as well. So it's like 3 different backups. So USB, NAS drive, and and remote system. So I've got 3 different. I've got an off-site backup, an on-site USB, and a NAS drive. So beyond that, I mean, there's probably other stuff I could do. I could print them out, I suppose. That's how I do it. So yes, I could. It says, what can be done to enhance portability? That's all I do. If there's anything, I mean, I'm not an expert in doing backups. I do what's needed for myself. If anyone's got any ideas, I'd leave them in the comments down below. That'd be great. But it's down to personal need, I think, more than all else. If you need to be super safe, you can find answers to that, solutions to your problem. But you got to know what the problem is in the first place. Maybe I should back up more. That's a good idea. Right, so next one is by Zhong. It says, what are any FreeBSD projects or milestones you are excited in the future? And your opinion on the current state of FreeBSD that can be improved upon or add. Since I'm running FreeBSD on an old machine from 2008. Well, you're not the only one. I'm doing that as well, mate. What are your thoughts? Users using such old machines and the GP support to be dropped. What are the FreeBSD projects and milestones you're excited about? I don't know. It's do you know, I don't keep abreast of the latest things as I should. I think one thing that I don't use it that much, Wi-Fi, but that has got to be the number one thing that people ask me about. You know, comments, videos. Oh, they said I'll use FreeBSD, but the Wi-Fi doesn't work. Or not so much GPU these days. It used to be that perhaps NVIDIA didn't work, but that situation is long gone. I mean, I think NVIDIA. I can't speak for AMD, but in the NVIDIA support has been top notch for years now. FreeBSD supports quite a few printers now, so that's not an issue. Scanners, I don't know. Graphics tablets, maybe there might be a problem there. But yeah, it's got to be Wi-Fi is the number one. I know there'll be more technical people. Maybe they'll say, "Oh, well, what about ZFS integration and encryption?" And I like I say, I can't. Even NVMe, I don't have anything that's NVMe related. I am missing out on so much technology. I need to upgrade my stuff. I really do. It's practically a living museum in here. So I can only speak on a personal one. It's got to be Wi-Fi. That's the number one thing that I get asked, or perhaps not a lot of people predict is the reason why they don't use FreeBSD. So I'm kind of like excited about that. I know there's a lot of stuff revolving around Cherry, which is a new technology that's coming up. Beyond that, I don't know. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Gaming support, yeah, maybe. But, it's my Steam. That would be nice. Perhaps a more native Steam. I know you can run Steam on FreeBSD, but it involves, excuse me, a little bit of shenanigans. But it involves a little bit of shenanigans. Interesting phrase. Yes. So really just Wi-Fi. That's the only thing that I'm excited about. Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. And then what? No, it's gone. My it's just evaporated. Did you see that on camera? It just evaporated from my mind. Then I had an idea, and it quickly went away. GPU acceleration from NVIDIA would be nice. I think there was a breakthrough recently, the open sourced like a CUDA alternative to AMD. That could be rolled into FreeBSD, but I don't have anything which would take advantage of that. And CUDA from NVIDIA is not going to happen anytime soon on FreeBSD, so that would be something else I would get excited about. Right, so let's have a look. We've got one from the second summer. It's quite a long one. It says, how did you get started with computers? Well, how did you get interested in FreeBSD? That's the same as Realreaper's question. What do you think will take FreeBSD to fork, or a fork to take off and take a measurable segment of the desktop laptop OS market? I don't think that's ever going to happen. Do you prefer Linux-like OSes over ones that are out? How do you feel about permissives versus copyleft? Do you think proprietary software is something we should try or avoid or hopefully replace completely? Or do you think that it's just a fact of life and it will always be part of the mix? Have you ever worked as a sysadmin or other IT role? Yes, I have. I know that last one first. I have. It was on an official basis, of course. I'm not, to my shame, and I wish I had, but I worked for a good few years. I originally started working in a timber yard, and in that timber yard there was a fair old computer network going, because it was like one branch of a large company, and I had an interest in computers. I was only young then. I had an interest in computers, and I was the kind of like go-to computer guy, which would fix things. So yes, on an unofficial basis. But no, I think it was always unofficial with me. You know what I mean? It's like, where it comes in friends, family, working, everything was like, can you come and fix this? Can you run this? And I used to do. I wish I'd have pursued it more officially. Yeah, so I mean, on many of the times when I'm doing a FreeBSD video, we're both learning together, both the viewer and myself. And that's not a lie. Which is good, because I like to keep the old noggin active. So, do I think that FreeBSD will take off a measurable segment of the desktop? No, I don't think so. I don't even think that Linux is going to take a segment of the desktop. I think things are moving, perhaps online or mobile or wherever people will move to. I think that that will never happen. I mean, there will always be a segment of the IT world which will go there simply out for a rebellion or just be pig-headed or understand the benefits of going with it. And out of that segment is a tiny little segment with FreeBSD. Things might change. It's like Sony uses FreeBSD as its basis for OS on the PS3. It was a PS4, and although I haven't got one, I think I've heard a PS5. So I think FreeBSD has found its niche with Sony. I mean, that's a huge company, making millions of consoles. Could it go elsewhere? It could, but that would require a manufacturer to pick it up. I mean, like System 76 makes their own custom laptops running their own custom version of Linux. Now, it could. If another manufacturer did that and made the computer sexy, made it viable, but use FreeBSD as its desktop, then it could make a name for it. It'd take a while, but it could make a name for itself, and it could attract people who want to use it. And then we could point potential users saying, look, there's a company over there that sells FreeBSD with everything configured, and you think, oh yeah, cheers, thanks, and off they go. You could build up a market like that, and it would take a long time, because it's taken Linux a long time to get about like 3% of the market or something like that. But that's 3% against with all of the distributions, and some of them are backed by big names like IBM, etc. So FreeBSD doing that would be smaller, would take longer, but you don't know unless FreeBSD. I don't want to be telling FreeBSD the developers or the foundation what they should be doing. Of course, that's not my place. But I think something needs to be done. I think FreeBSD is not losing out, but as a server OS is not what it is not in the numbers that it used to be. It's not on a lot of desktops. It's not on mobile phones. So I'm not saying there's a good chance, but there's always a danger that perhaps it takes Google to come up with an other OS to replace Android, which I think they are. I'm not sure what it's called, but I know it's something that they're making in-house. You squeeze the market even more, FreeBSD just might disappear from public view. Not to say that it's not used in the background, like Netflix and Sony use it, but from public view. That would be a shame. So I think they might need to perhaps look into making inroads into something. Making inroads into the desktop might be a way. So it's difficult. I understand where FreeBSD is coming from. I know it needs to be a bare bones OS that you can then tailor to yourself, and that's its strength. That's one. I was speaking earlier about is like older machines, but perhaps an officially recognized version for desktops. I mean, we've already got that in a sense. Why we got GhostBSD. GhostBSD is of course based on FreeBSD, and GhostBSD is, in all essence, what GhostBSD is FreeBSD pre-made for the desktop, and they do a fantastic job. I absolutely love GhostBSD, and I recommend it to whoever, when you get new prospective users to FreeBSD, who are perhaps a bit unsure, or maybe they want to do something, or I'll say to them, get GhostBSD, try it on your system, because it's a live session. It's based upon the latest FreeBSD. Now it's based on FreeBSD 14. Well, the new version that's just come out is based on that. If everything works well with that, chances are it will work with FreeBSD, and also GhostBSD will help you learn. And it is. GhostBSD can ease a new user into FreeBSD world, and that's not to be sniffed at. I mean, that it's a wonderful thing, and I'm not saying that GhostBSD is not official, but if perhaps it was, I don't know, perhaps promoted a little bit more by, you say this sort of like diplomatically, it's promoted a little bit more by the powers that be as a way to get into FreeBSD for those perhaps who are a little bit nervous about just getting the command line. It's nothing to me. I can't say. But yes, do you know, I don't half waffle. This is why I don't do a live stream. Can you imagine that? I'd be just like, you know. Do you prefer? Do you think proprietary software is something we should try and avoid and hopefully replace completely? Or do you think it's a fact of life? Proprietary software. I haven't got a problem using proprietary software. Some people are open source advocates. I mean, I do advocate it, but I'm not one of these burn proprietary software. Burn it. I'm not. No, I'm not. If you want to use proprietary software, if you want to use it for video editing, then brilliant. Use Adobe if you've got a system that can run Adobe, of course. If you haven't got the money for proprietary software, I mean, I'll say do not pirate it. That's when I was younger, I used to do, and yeah, not a good idea. Not these days anyway. Not the number of viruses going around and malware and stuff like that. If you're going to use proprietary software, buy it, or do the Adobe, model and rolling license. If you can't afford proprietary software, then open source is perfect. You can contribute if you wish to the project, which a lot of people do. But it's there for those who believe in open source software for political reasons, for ideological reasons, and for financial reasons. So yes, I think both can exist. I think that proprietary software can act as and it works both ways, this is, by the way. You can act as a template to inspire new open source software projects and vice versa, which is good, because then there's a symbiotic relationship going on. And yes, I do think it's a fact of life that proprietary software exists. I mean, companies will innovate if they can make profits, and sometimes you can innovate using open source software, but sometimes it takes a little bit of the old moolah for it to inspire someone. And that's not even now. Open source projects like the Wi-Fi drivers for FreeBSD, it's a project which is getting financially sponsored by the FreeBSD Foundation that hire a programmer to come in and do the task. So even then, you're talking money. So money and proprietary software and open source software is very much integrated. And I think the system works. I think it's fine. The only problem might come in, say, for instance, if someone in an open source project then unofficially takes a little bit of proprietary stuff and back engineers and puts it in. That might cause a problem, and you shouldn't do that either. Right, so I have another one. How do you usually react when you recommend giving FreeBSD a try and you face a wall of indifference from a Windows a Windows user? They typically don't care despite the stability and security problems that they have all the time. Well, like I say, for many people, computer is a tool. You get a job done. You switch it on, you get a job done, you switch it off and you go home. It's like a car. Most people don't have a desire to rip out the engine, put in a V8 and sort of like turbo. They don't really want to do all that, and that's fine. It's people, or for instance, have a cooker and replace the rings with nuclear fission rods or anything like that. A lot of people, they turn on a computer to get the job done, and they don't care what operating system it is. It could be Windows, it could be anything. It makes no difference. Other people, perhaps more technologically aware, they will look for alternatives but only when they're ready. So you can't force someone. You can't say, come on, man, come over here. They're going to think, yeah, look at you, you weirdo. And so, say, for instance, something happens in Windows where they get disenchanted, it doesn't work, they lose a lot of work, or maybe Linux, they get sick of distro hopping, or the one that they usually use gets bought out, or it changes, or drops support, or anything. Then they might look for alternatives, and in which case then you can say FreeBSD doesn't really change for change's sake. It will get things done at its own pace and make incremental changes down the line if it needs to, and which it does. And that's one of the draws. You know, you use FreeBSD from about 10 years ago. It's pretty much the same. 2 editions cost pretty much the same as it is, better, improved, but pretty much the same as it is now. Linux on the other hand, well, they can chop and change, display managers chop and change. It's like systemd, for instance. I'm not even going to get started on that systemd to replace time-worn alternatives like init systems. If you know what systemd is, then you understand the philosophy and why a lot of people don't like it. Excuse me. Right, sorry about that. This is typical. I get a phone call for hours. Boom, there you go. Anyway, right, I forgot what I was saying now. So yeah, I mean, if an operating system is working well for you, then you've got no reason to change. If it starts to act up or it does no longer meet your needs, and you look to alternatives. And that is when you try, and only then, because otherwise you'll be bashing your head on the wall, try to convince the other person who is not ready to change. It's just about how fantastic your OS is, how brilliant FreeBSD is. They will not believe you or not be interested. So you don't tend to do that. You don't evangelize, really. So, yeah. I think, is that it? I can't remember what I answered before. That's typical, isn't it? Right. Indifference. And, oh yeah, well, we'll leave the last one now. Philipp, and it says, what are your guilty pleasures? Well, my guilty pleasures. Well, you know, I mean, it's got to be chocolate. I love chocolate. That's my guilty pleasure. And as you get older, you know, you can no longer, lose a bit of weight. But health conditions like pre-diabetes. So I tend to sort of like not eat as much chocolate as I used to do. And if I do eat chocolate now, it's going to be sort of like low sugar, high cocoa, 90+% chocolate. Have you ever had any of that? It is strong stuff. You only need a tiny little bit, and then that satisfies your chocolate craving. But I do love chocolate. So if whenever people bring chocolate into the house or chocolate biscuits, it's like, you know, I try and resist. You know it is. But if it's there and it's like, oh, whose is that one? It's like spare. It's like, no, got to get it. Yeah, that's my guilty pleasure. Apart from that, that's all I've got. Boring, isn't it? I don't drink and don't smoke. Yeah. It's boring. No, I don't do anything. No, I don't. Chocolate and buying computer equipment. Yeah. But then again, if you're watching this, you probably have a nerdy persuasion, and buying computer equipment, perhaps when you don't really need it, is something which we all do, I think. So yes, that's it. It's been a weird video, this one, hasn't it? For me, it's different style. Maybe I should get more used to doing on screen. But I'm just looking at the little monitor thing, and I don't know how you stop reflection in the mirror. No, it's still there now, isn't it? So you really can't see me. This is glasses. So I'm going to perhaps need to set up a little studio thing going, maybe. We'll see. So yes, this video really was just a thank you. Get to know each other a little bit more. As much as it is. The questions. Do you know, I actually anticipated, I kind of like thought, oh, the questions are going to be really, they're going to stick some really mean questions in. But you didn't. It really. I'm not disappointed, But I'm surprised at just how smart. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised at myself for not realizing how smart most of the viewers are, and with the questions they were asked, they ask really, really good questions. I mean, I can't. Really, there's only I picked 11 with a special mention at the end for Klaus, who I didn't answer his question. How smart the questions were. I mean, of course, Philipp, he goes, hey, what's his secret pleasure? Well, I expected a lot more like that, saying, oh, what was your favourite colour? What movies were first watched? What's your favourite food? And which, by the way, is Madras curry. Oh, I love curry. And stuff like that. But I didn't. And you know, that's fantastic. And I really admire that. I'm thankful too. A lot of the questions I might not have answered. Right, okay, before I babble on and waste your time anymore, I want to say, I've enjoyed this. I'm not saying I'm going to do a live stream now, but it's like I say, my internet connection is really poor. Budget cutbacks, I've had to go on to the most basic level. The upload is, I think the upload is 5 megabits a second or something like that. Maybe it could be 3 to 5 megabits, which is not enough. Otherwise, you want it buffering. So, but you know, never say never. Maybe if things come a little bit more, the cost of living crisis eases, then maybe I'll upgrade and then I'll do a live stream. But it's something which I wouldn't mind doing. But this is going to be the closest I am. So, right, I'll leave it. He's waffling. Okay. I'm going to say bye-bye. Thanks for watching. If you've got any comments, if you want to say, good grief, what a waste of however long it is, I'm never going to watch you again, then fine, just leave a little comment down below. A like, a dislike, there is no kind of like in between, is there? There's no like, ambivalent, there's no, that should be an extra one that YouTube put on. But anyway, leave a like. If you like the video, consider subscribing. And if you don't want to miss any more content, which if it's like this, I wouldn't blame you if you did, ring that notification bell. And thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time in a perhaps better produced and more professional kind of video. Okay, bye bye. Thank you.